support this regard.
I'm Harrison Bond, and like I said, I'm the honor skipper tonight. First, I just want to thank all y'all for y'all's support in the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and especially your participation in the Leukemia Cup Regatta. I am a Hodgkin's lymphoma survivor. I am privileged and honored to be recognized. I'm privileged and honored to be recognized as the honorary sailor this year. First, privileged because I have the opportunity to share a little bit of my story with all of y'all, and in the hopes of inspiring continued support in this cause. And two, honored because there are thousands of blood cancer patients, victims and survivors and their families who continue to battle every day. I'm very excited to be here tonight. I'm able to share a little bit of my story because I'm blessed with positive support from my family and friends, many of whom are here tonight with us, and many great medical professionals and many others who I didn't know at the time. They helped me along my journey. A little while over a year ago, I began to notice that I had difficulty breathing during my football practices for Jesuit's football team. I kind of told myself, you know, you're in bad shape. If you keep pushing, you'll get through it. And it just didn't happen. I kept playing, but I didn't notice any changes. I started getting tired all the time. I'd come home from school, I'd eat dinner, I'd do my homework, and I'd go straight to bed. No TV, no nothing. And then when football season ended, basketball season started up, and I noticed that slowly my breathing was getting much worse. And then during the last couple weeks of the basketball season, I noticed my neck started to get really stiff, and I noticed like a small bump. And I told myself, you know, maybe you pulled a muscle during practice, or maybe you should have dove for that ball, and you're just a little injured. But a few weeks later, I noticed it was a lot bigger. So I went and showed my dad, and so he scheduled an appointment, him and my mom scheduled an appointment with a pediatrician, and they sent me in for some blood work and a couple scans. So the next day, I didn't really think anything of it. The doctors didn't make a big deal of it. I was like, whatever, it might be a staph infection. So I get to school the next day, I'm doing my quizzes, checking our homework, and I'm in math class, and our disciplinarian comes over the intercom, and he says, could Harrison Bond please report to the office? I was like, oh God, what did I do? So I get in there, my dad's waiting for me. And I was like, what's up, Dad? He said, well, the doctor's called, they want you to come in for a few more tests. He said it's nothing really that big, but they just wanted to get another look at it. So I got there, and I had a chest x-ray and a CAT scan, and then about 30 minutes later, one of the nurses comes in, she says, you know, Harrison, you have Hodgkin's lymphoma. I was stunned. I was so scared, I didn't know anything about it. I knew nothing about it. I didn't even know what cancer was. And so slowly I learned about it. A few hours later they told me that Hodgkin's lymphoma was one of the few treatable and curable cancers. And I didn't even really know what that meant. I didn't know that treatment involved chemotherapy and radiation therapy. I didn't know what that was. And so, I mean, obviously I was filled with questions, but I didn't know what to ask first. So the next few hours were a blur of just doctors coming and asking me questions, me asking them questions, trying to figure out what was going on. And then they told me like 2 hours later, like, all right, you have surgery right now. We're going to do a biopsy and a bone marrow to check your bone marrow. So they prepped me for surgery, and I went in my full Jesuit uniform. That's how fast it came. So the surgery went well. I spent that night in the ICU in a room full of these beeping machines. They're so aggravating if you've ever spent a night in a hospital. So the next morning at about 5 a.m., I was taken in an ambulance to Toro's Imaging Center, where I had a PET scan. And so before the PET scan, you have to go sit in a room by yourself while the radioactive dye kind of makes its way through your body. And this is really the first time I had to myself after getting the diagnosis. It was actually pretty peaceful, to tell you the truth. I sat there and I thought about all kind of stuff, especially my very uncertain future at this point, and especially my family and friends, among many other things. And then, so I went through the PET scan, all smiles at this point still. And then that night, one day after being diagnosed, I began receiving my first round of chemotherapy. Because the tumor was growing very rapidly. In the 24-hour span that I'd been there, it had doubled in size. To say that this 2-day period was a shock to me is a major understatement. In less than 36 hours, I was diagnosed, had surgery, put in intensive care, had 4 different tests run, took an ambulance ride, and began chemotherapy. My dad told me, "Harrison, this is coming so fast." I told him, "Better fast than slow." Throughout my treatment, I tried to resume a pretty normal life as best as I could. During my weeks out of the hospital, I would hang out with friends, doing normal stuff. I started a volleyball team down at Coconut Beach, which is right down the way. And while I was in the hospital, I'd keep in touch with my friends and my family through Facebook and Skype. But I was able to do this because I have some pretty cool friends, and they pitched in and bought me a MacBook. So I still am so thankful for them doing that. Them showing their support for me was incredible. At this time during treatment, it wasn't all fun and games. I had 4 rounds of chemotherapy and 14 rounds of radiation. While the radiation only really made me tired, I didn't have too many negative side effects from that. Chemotherapy took a pretty big toll. I had a lot of side effects, most notably the usual stomach pain, headaches, and just soreness all over, muscles, bones, everything. And I lost my hair, like most people do. My parents, and especially my mom, supported me through this whole process, even when we got each other's nerves. I was able to return to school as a 9th grader this past fall. I'm keeping up with my schoolwork, but I'm pretty tired, which is an effect of chemotherapy and radiation. The doctors told me that the fatigue can last up to a year after treatments. But my friends are pretty jealous because my teachers let me sleep in class now. It's pretty good work. I made the 9th grade basketball team this past fall and resumed my life as normal. Having cancer has changed my life and the lives of many around me, especially my family and my close friends. I'm so grateful for their love and support. Now, while some of these friendships have changed, I've met a lot of new friends, and I'm grateful for all of them, including some of my doctors and nurses. I've learned a lot through the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Had I gotten the same cancer that I had 30 years ago, the cure rate was only about 40%. I would have had a much different outcome. Now the cure rate is about 90% for my specific disease, and Hodgkin's lymphoma research is concentrated right now on reducing the negative side effects of chemotherapy and radiation, which I talked about earlier. The other diagnoses for blood cancer are much more difficult, and they require a lot more time and money spent for the research. And to say that there's a lot more work to be done is another understatement. Before I thank all of y'all who will stay on this event, I would like to mention the impact of attitude in my life. To me, attitude means the way that you choose to look at everything that goes on in your life. It's your perspective. You can choose to be optimistic or pessimistic. You can look at something as bad, or instead, as a challenge, an opportunity to make yourself better. I want want to read you my favorite poem written by Charles Swindoll entitled Attitude. The longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude in my life. Attitude, to me, is more important than facts. It is more important than the past, than education, than money, than circumstances, than failures, than successes, than what other people think or say or do. It is more important than appearance, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break a company, a church, a home. The remarkable thing is, we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we will embrace for that day. We cannot change our past. We cannot change the fact that people will act in a certain way. The only thing we can do is play in the one string we have, and that is our attitude. I'm convinced that life is 10% what happens to me, and 90% how I react to it. And so it is with you.